Is this thing on?
Welcome back to another episode of Spooled Life Live. I'm your host, Ram Garcia, and we have a podium-worthy show today for you folks. We have none other but champion Mr. Kevin Akin in the Roy's Bait and Tackle studio.
I don't know if it's podium worthy, but I'm here.
Right, man, by the end of the show, we're going to make it podium. If it ain't yet, we're going to
feel like I need a taller podium. I feel short behind this deal.
Right. Man, thank you so much for
thank you for having me. Thank you for inviting me.
So, what we do here, right, here at the Spooled Life Live, we bring in anglers along the coast, the best anglers, from the best to the lowest anglers, right?
No, everybody's a fisherman. It doesn't matter what level you're at.
Exactly. So we get the story that they want to bring to the Spooled Life, right? We're real, we're raw, and we're live.
10-4.
You got it. So thank you so much for coming on. Tell us a little bit about yourself, man.
Well, my name is Kevin Akin. I live here in Corpus Christi, Texas. I was a fishing guide here in Corpus for many, many years. I think I pulled the plug on that deal about 2009, somewhere in that range. Back then I fished tournaments as well, me and a bunch of friends, whatever tournament was around. I've been fishing tournaments since I was a little kid. My dad actually got me into it. I'm from the Rio Grande Valley. I'm from the valley. I grew up down there, and I think we moved to Corpus. I was about 12 or so, but I fished the TIFF, Texas International Fishing Tournament with my dad, Port Mansfield Fishing Tournament, Arroyo City Fishing Tournament. So I've been fishing tournaments a long time, and that translated into when I was guiding me and my good friend of mine, Aaron Loomis, and a lot of other people. We all fished tournaments together for a long time, and it's enjoyable. We always enjoyed ourselves, and we always competitive.
Mm-hmm. What waters do you fish? Local waters now?
Yeah, primarily here. Yeah, I'd probably say the last 10 years I spend more time out of state than I do here being out of state Louisiana, but I've fished at home more competitively lately because of the PRL, the Professional Redfish League, and the events that were here in COVID, and just a lot of things got canceled and rescheduled. Right. And so I've been fishing more at home now than I have probably the last decade. I've got to learn a bunch of waters all the way from, I already knew down south, but all the way to Louisiana. I've been to Florida probably 4 or 5 times now, Panama City, Tampa Bay, Sarasota, Jacksonville. I've got to fish over there quite a bit. It's enjoyable, and it's one of the things I like about tournament fishing, being able to go to other waters that aren't yours, learn the water, which is the hardest part of navigating, and go catch fish somewhere else and meet a bunch of new people.
Right.
Yep.
So when y'all are cruising to Florida and Louisiana, places like that, these anglers, you're not just any typical redfish angler coming from out of state, right?
When you go to new waters that you haven't been to before, when I started doing this, I was still back in the FLW days, so I'd go to Louisiana. Nowadays, everybody has maps on their GPSs, and knows I'd literally trying to find a boat ramp, back a boat in the water and start looking, not even really having a direction. I'm not a person that calls somebody and asks them where fish are. I just go put my time in and do my work. And navigating is the hardest challenge of it all. Nowadays, it's easier on new anglers because you have so much satellite mapping on GPS and everything else. Back then, it was landmarks. That's how I learned how to fish.
Right.
You look at a windmill, or you look at a shoreline or a point or even a day board, just trying to figure out where's this rock in and baffin. So I still do that majority of the time. But I would say the most frustrating part is not knowing where to fish, not know the area code you're supposed to be in those other things, but it's also the most rewarding when you find that on your own and somebody didn't hand it to you on a plate.
Exactly. Were you in the tournament scene? We're kind of going backwards, but were you in the tournament scene when there wasn't any GPS?
When I first started guiding, we didn't have GPS. I remember my first GPS was a Garmin, and that was back in the days when everybody had a VHF on their boat. This is probably right around the bag phone days, And I remember the first GPS I got, and the first time I put a waypoint down on a rock. And at that time, it wasn't zoned in. Like, you couldn't go right to it, but within 200 yards of it. And I thought it was so awesome. But the problem was that when you keyed your mic on your radio, it wiped out your GPS every time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I was in that generation as an adult where I started to have a GPS for just finding spots that you already marked and stuff in the dark and early in the morning and that kind of stuff. But it definitely has come a long way since then.
Right. I'm going to stop real quick. What's going on, Chris? Eric Bettis, yes, the loot will be given away today. What's going on, Mr. Hernandez? Somebody give me a brown thumbs up if the sound is good, you could hear us good, you could see us good. What's going on? Mr. Bob Rivetta's in the house. That might be Lucy.
That's Joe Hernandez, my uncle. Is that who that is?
I'm not sure.
That's what it looks
Joe
like.
Hernandez.
Yeah.
Hey, we got all the family on board here.
That's
It's
my
a
other-
huge
that's my
accomplishment.
other
man.
half.
Man, you thought the PRL was a huge accomplishment. Being here at the Spoiled Life Live.
I am in the most expensive booth around, though, huh?
All right, so we got a good thumbs up. Let's keep on going, man. So what got you into tournament fishing? 'Cause-
Probably what I did with my dad as a kid.
Oh, yeah.
You know, doing that stuff, and I enjoyed fishing. Once he brought me into it, I was probably around 6, 7 years old, somewhere in that range. I was staying at my grandfather's house, and him and my Mima, and he comes rolling up with a Glastron with like a 90 on the back of it. We're going fishing. I'm like, what? We're doing what? And it was from there on, I guess, hook, line, and sinker at it. You know, I've always been addicted to it, and always enjoyed doing it. And it's kind of what I do. So I thank my dad for that mostly.
You were guiding before? Or that hadn't
I
came yet?
guided for about 20 years, you know, as hard as you could do it, you know, once it started getting rolling, where you had clientele and all that. And I'll be honest with you, majority of guides, when they start out, they don't know what they're doing. When I started out, I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I did, and you find out real quickly you don't. But I enjoyed that time in my life. I don't remember a lot of it because you have to work so hard as a guide to make a living and pay bills and all that. But it was enjoyable on the aspect. I still have friends to this day that are from back then. You know, the guys that I talk to every day, and the guys that some of us don't talk all the time, but we're still really good friends, and that's probably what I enjoy about it the most.
Right. I've had several different guides come through the show, and they all said that. You know, that people think that, man, you got to fish every day, and you know, you're having fun on the water, but it's not what everybody thinks, right?
No, I think if I had it to do over again, the guy that I started guiding with was a guy by the name of Bill Stewart, and he had a houseboat down in Baffin, ran trips down there, and that's who I started guiding with. And he's a very intelligent dude. He's a good guy, good for customers and everything else. But he's the one that instilled in me that, hey, you got to take every trip you can ever take. You got to make every dollar you can ever make, or you'll never have any money to pay bills. If I had to give somebody advice now, I'd be like, take 2 days off a week for your family.
Right.
Take 2 days off a week for yourself. You don't need to work 7 days a week and do every double. You need to have a life other than work. So if that would be my advice to guides that are fishing now, take time for yourself, you know, because the money's still going to be there. You can still book the trips. You can still work 5 days a week. You can still do all that, but you can also keep everybody at home happy and everybody else in your life, including yourself.
Right. That's some good words right there, man, for the people that are, for the guides that are coming up, right? And if y'all are just tuning in, this is the Spoiled Life Live. We have Mr. Kevin Akin in the Roy's Bait and Tackle studio. For all you the tournament anglers that are on, if you got any questions for the upcoming tournament anglers, if you got questions, shoot them into the comments, man. We're going to get them all answered tonight. But if we don't, myself, if it's a question related to Ram Garcia or a question related to Mr. Kevin Akin, we will come back after the show and get them all answered. Right?
10-4.
Hell yeah,
I'm in.
man. So let's do tournaments now. The podium appearances that you have. You know what? Mr. Alex Guetta, I had him on the show, and after the show, he recommended me bringing you on the show, and I was like, man, well, who the hell is Kevin Akin, man? So I started doing some research, and I started bringing up your Instagram pages and your Facebook page, and I was like, geez, what in the world? How in the hell does Kevin Akin get so many podium appearances, man? Tell us a little bit about that.
I mean, I started, actually the one individual, if you're going to say, how did you start fishing redfish tournaments, was actually Jimmy Mayak. At that time, I was running Mayak boats. I was still guiding at that time. And Jimmy's like, hey, Kevin, you know, you really should go fish these redfish tournaments. It's cool. You'll like it. So, you know, me and a good friend of mine, Aaron Loomis, literally fished an IFA out of Aransas Pass. I still remember the day I almost threw Aaron out of the boat. But not because we were mad at each other, because we had a ship wake doing 60. But that's what got me started fishing. And when we started fishing it, we realized that we have no clue what we're doing. You know, like we think we know how to fish, but we really don't. And some people do that, you know, and get that aspect and quit and do something else. And I was more along the lines of what we saw one particular day. Aaron and I were fishing a tournament day, and we're drifting, and they're everywhere. Now, mind you, we've been waiting on these fish, wrecking them for a while. I think Aaron's the one that found them, actually. And on tournament day, we couldn't catch them. I mean, we're drifting, they're coming by the boat, and we're not getting bit. And that day probably was the most influential day for me on, I didn't know what to do there, and I wanted to know what to do. You know, I wanted to be in the situation where I'm catching them, not watching them go, we're flying by them drifting. So, And I just started working, started getting better at sight fishing, started getting better at fish recognition, and really I put in a bunch of time, and I still do. We just got through with the World Series in Chalmette, and I was over there for 2 solid weeks, fished every day.
Oh, really?
You know, regardless of the weather, regardless of what was going on tide-wise, weather-wise, I was on the water fishing because that's the only way you learn, and it's just time on the water.
Right. Do you think that's the most important thing while pre-fishing?
No doubt. Yeah, I think time on the water. I think once you get to the level when you're fishing tournaments, I think bass guys are the same way, and most guys that are competitive fishing are the same way. Once it's almost like you're a fishing guide out there and you kind of know what to do on this weather and that weather and what's going to hold up, what's not going to hold up, and what's coming, decision making on tournament day becomes a little easier. Doesn't mean you're going to have success because you go put a month and a half in, but you should have a better idea of what areas you can catch a fish in and which one are be totally screwed because of the weather, you know. But time on the water is the only thing that equals success in my eyes.
Do you think the tournaments from when you started till now have changed any? The tournament scene?
Yeah, it changed a bunch. I mean, when I made the decision to start traveling fishing tournaments other than in my home waters, it was the year the FLW canceled. We were in Rockport, and the FLW was like, look, we're not going to have events anymore. This is it. We still had the IFA, which was a staple forever. And it stayed pretty constant there for a while as far as what red fishing was available to you in the sport. And then once the IFA stopped, it kind of has like a grenade. There's fragments here and there and here and there. There's some things that bring everything together, but for the most part, this sport is pretty blown apart as far as different tours, different states. A lot of people don't travel. Back when we started and we had the Texas Saltwater Series, you know, people from up north came down south, we went up north, and now you're finding it more where people are staying at home. You know, there's not as many people willing to go out there and travel. In fact, we're a really small group now that are willing to go take the show on the road. And that's probably been the biggest change, is everything's so far apart in our sport.
When you go to these tournaments that are in Florida and Louisiana, it's mostly the same people?
Majority of the people that travel, yes.
Like that small group you're talking about?
Yeah, absolutely. It's majority of the same people, the same faces. You know, everybody knows each other pretty well. And majority of the time, one thing I've learned about red fishing, especially in this sport, anybody's willing to travel to Louisiana and go fishing. Anybody. I mean, Louisiana's a great fishery. Most regular anglers can leave from a launch and have a redfish on, and in a typical year, you know, with throwing a cork going down the bank. So it's a good fishery. It's a good sight fishery. Friendly people, good food. So people from the Carolinas all the way to Texas will travel to Louisiana, especially in the fall, in a heartbeat to go fish. Where if most championships, let's say we're in the Carolinas, there's people from here that will travel there and go fish. I'm in. I can go donate. They donate. We donate. We all donate.
Right.
I like that fishery. The water drops out a bunch. It's hard to learn, but it's not that difficult. But I don't know. I don't know what the solution is for our sport on getting everybody back together in one entity, so to speak. You know, a lot of people are trying. Ron's trying. Pat with the Elite is working on it, and everybody's trying to get the same goal, get everybody under the same umbrella. You know.
When you mentioned that you were in a Mayak at the start, what are you fishing in now?
Today I've been running Haney's now. I don't even know. Probably since 05-ish, somewhere in there. I've been over there with Chris. The year that Chris bought the Haney boat manufacturing plant, or whatever you call it, from Mr. Haney, he made a call to me and Aaron at the time. And I called Aaron first, and then Aaron called me, and we went over and went to Chris. He was working on our motors back then, you know, the stuff local. We were at the time, I think we were both with Jim Poole at Waypoint in New Braunfels, and I've been with Chris, you know, ever since. He's one of my best friends. He's one of my, regardless whether I run his boat or don't run his boat, we're friends in life. So it was a good connection, and I'm glad that I built that friendship.
Cool, man. Redfish fishing. What got you into the whole redfish side of tournament fishing and not like the artificial showdowns fishing, or do you do those tournaments as well?
I started doing a little bit more trout stuff the last couple of years, just because some friends, you know, I fished with Jimmy Lloyd and Charlie in a couple of years ago in one of Chad Pedrick's tournaments. Why am I drawing a blank right now?
The Legends?
Yeah, the Saltwater Legends series. We actually still have the record on the biggest bag, just letting you know.
Oh, really?
But that's because of Jimmy Lloyd. But and last year, you know, me, Cody Barton, and Clark Jordan fished. We didn't have success. I think we finished 6th in Team of the Year. But, I mean, trust me, if you'd seen our fish, we didn't deserve that. But we'll be fishing it again this year. And that's more of a friendship-based deal. I used to fish trout tournaments all the time. I would probably say I was never successful at it. I might have had a couple good tournaments, but for the most part, not that I don't like chasing big trout. I just don't like the cold weather. So it doesn't really go hand in hand. But I mean, I'll fish next to anybody when it comes to that. I mean, they can kick my butt, but I'll keep on casting. So. But yeah, red fishing wise, I think probably more when I was a kid. We didn't have that many redfish when I was a kid. Remember, there was still gill netting back then. You didn't have what you have now. You know, CCA and the state of Texas did a good job restocking it, and you getting rid of the gill nets and that stuff. And I guess I just figured out that I really like sight casted fish. It's probably my passion, and it's like hunting. And really, honestly, there for a long time, you can go red fishing, and everybody's trout fishing. You pretty much have the whole red fishery to yourself.
Right.
There's nobody in the way. You know, until recent times with the freeze, did you start noticing a bunch of people throwing cut bait on red fishing, a lot more red fishermen. But you really had a lot of the world to yourself, and really didn't have to worry whether it was a Saturday or not. That's probably why I like it the most.
Right. When red fishing, do you what's more important to you, presentation or color?
Man, I really would tell you, if you ask me what the most important thing is having the fish in front of you.
Right.
I mean, that's the most important thing.
Important.
Lure, not lure, whatever. Fish eat when they want to eat. You know, redfish, people typically say, hey, you know, and they're not that hard to catch. No, really, they are. They can be. They're like a lot of other fish. Certain tidal movements, things happen. They're just not going to eat. They're going to have their little window. They do their deal. Especially you see it more in the spring than you do the fall. But in the winter, you'll see it as well. But, you know, typically people wading or even fishing out of kayaks, they eat pretty good. There's not a big presence in the water. But when you start putting a 25-foot boat out in front of them, they can feel the pressure on the water. Things change really quickly.
That's true.
But I don't think lures are as important here in Texas when it comes to redfish. I mean, it can be certain times of the year, but I think that's personal preference. You know, it's pretty simple to me. They want a dark lure or a light lure.
Right.
It really doesn't matter other than that. You know, I'll throw a spoon a lot. I'm not a big topwater guy just because tournament fishing will teach you not to throw topwater. But
really?
Yeah.
Why?
I mean, it doesn't do you any good to lose 8.5 pounder on topwater. And you're going to pull hooks on them, you know, when they're the same fish is going to eat something else. There's certain situations where you have to do it, where it's the best thing to do. But majority of the time, if you want to make money, put them on a jig, you know, and they have secondary spoon. But that's a personal preference deal. I know a lot of people throw topwater. I know a lot of people love it. But that's more because they want to catch them on topwater, not that they can't catch them another way, you know. But it's all different. I mean, back in the day when we threw topwater and we were throwing mono, we didn't lose as many. Now we're throwing braid, we lose a lot more fish. So it's all relative. But trout-wise, guys, you know, those guys throw topwater and beat their heads in with them.
Right.
But it's all personal preference, really.
Do you think scent has anything to do with it?
Absolutely. I think scent's probably one of the most important things. A lot of times, especially the more high-pressure fish you get into. You know, I think if you're in areas that aren't getting pressure and that they really don't even know there's boats around or people exist, it doesn't really matter. But I think the more you get around pressured areas, and especially redfish wanting to pick things up on the bottom a lot sometimes, it makes a big difference. Them being able to go to the bottom and pick it up off the bottom. You know, I always say, you know, you'll see them whiff at it and be like, no, I really don't want that. You know, you're like, well, it's a little dried out now. Whether you're throwing a gulp, it doesn't have enough smell. But I think scent is huge.
What type of scent? Or what scent?
I mean, I haven't never said, hey, this is what you have to have. But I think anything's better than nothing. Sometimes garlic, you know, throwing style baits with garlic. Sometimes it's gulp. Sometimes it's aftermarket products, you know, that you use, and smelly jelly, that kind of thing. But I don't think it ever hurts you.
I've noticed the garlic scented baits, but why are they garlic? Like what's in the water that?
Oh, the garlic scented bait. I'm pretty sure it's in the plastic package of lures.
No, but why create garlic scent? Not like why not apple scent?
I guess I always feel like most of that stuff when it comes to our saltwater side translated from the bass side. So somebody bass fishing figured out, hey, if this thing smells like garlic, the bass eat it better. Yeah. And that's pretty much where we get it from. You know, which I'm glad they do. It helps tremendously.
Yeah, the garlic stuff's. I mean, it works. You know.
Yeah, it does.
Let's do a gear breakdown. Let's go to the questions first. What's up, guys? Mr. Richter's in the house. Esquivel, Bozant, Bart Karen.
Oh, what's up, Bart?
Bart Karen's in here.
What are you doing? You're supposed to be fishing or playing cornhole.
Let's do a gear breakdown. Rods, reels, lures, different gear for different situations. You mentioned earlier that you throw a spoon or you have a spoon on board. At what point do you say, okay, the spoon's not working, let me throw a paddle tail? The paddle tail's not working, let me get back on this spoon? Or
typically when you start making those kind of decisions on changing lures, it's because you're questioning what you're doing in the back of your head. Okay. You know, or you've watched a reaction to fish you visually saw with your eyes and how they reacted to a lure. But typically when you start changing a bunch, it's either number one, you're on fish and you're trying to figure out how to catch them, or number two, you're starting to second guess what's going on in your brain. So you start changing lures, changing colors, changing everything else,
Right.
and it just kind of breeds. Sometimes it works, sometimes you'll find something and they start whacking them. Typically with a spoon, it's pretty easy. If it's clear water, they ought to eat a spoon most of the time if their crabs are out. Doesn't mean it works all the time, but it does a really good job of, you get vibration out of it, you get fish coming out of the grass or laying on the bottom. There's certain times of year where some people will argue with me on this, but there's certain times of year where the spoon's absolutely the best thing to throw, and it's all you really need. And really in red fishing overall, a spoon's probably the only lure you need to own for a majority of the late spring, summer months anyways. Whether you're in Florida or you're in Louisiana. I mean, the redfish love spoon. It's a crab imitation bait for the most part, so it's a pretty viable solution. I know redfish teams that my majority of the time, 90% of the time, that's all they throw, and they will get to the point in the day where they'll beat on them with a spoon. But I think it's personal preference.
A lot of people have said that they'll use a spoon like as a fish finder lure, and then transition to a paddle tip. But I'm like, man, if you caught a redfish with a spoon, why not just leave it on?
I mean, there's a misconception. I'm not so sure it's a misconception, but a lot of people are scared of a spoon on, especially tournament day on redfish, because people, number one, you have a tendency of tongue hooking a lot of fish, and a lot of people say, you miss a lot of fish on a spoon. I don't really agree with them on the missing part. That has to do with hook set. But I mean, you think about a spoon. If that fish hits it and that spoon's in the crusher, and you set the hook and you don't put a hook in the crusher, as soon as he opens his throat, the spoon's coming out. That's mechanics. That's angling. You got to set the hook hard enough to get it out of this crusher. But I agree with the spoon being a good fish finder. If they want to chase something down, I think probably the best fish finder is probably that topwater you're talking about. Take the hooks off. That's how we used to do it. Me and Aaron and I spent many hours of our life. Well, he spent many hours of his life throwing a topwater. And it was one of the best locators. That was back when we were standing on the deck majority of the times. We weren't elevated at all. We weren't really doing any kind of visual game on redfish, and we were pretty much trout fishing them. But topwaters, if you're gonna ask locator wise, I still say topwater's the best locator.
Right.
Just cut the hooks off and
hooks.
start chunking. Yeah.
Wow.
So why deal with the grass? Just let them locate it for you and then try to figure it out.
You might have mentioned something else, but you said tongue hook, right?
Yeah, some reason a spoon has a tendency of, when you set the hook, of rolling. It seemed like you have more tongue hook fish where the hook actually goes through the tongue, comes out the bottom of the fish. We used to have a lot of problems with fish dying in a live well because of it. We don't now. We've got those problems solved. But as far as tongue hook fish wise goes, but hey, spoon's a very valuable commodity when it comes to redfish, especially in the upper lagoon.
I want you to get into detail a little bit more about the redfish dying with the tongue hook, because I've had redfish die on tournament day due to that. When we string the redfish, if you hit that tongue,
they just lock up.
Yeah, they die.
Yeah. It's kind of hard for what y'all do as far as putting them on a stringer, as far as knowing what to do and what not to do with them. I couldn't really tell you. I'd probably say basket's probably better, but or bag, but in the live well with us, it has a lot to do nowadays with, I'm probably more anal about it. In fact, Dwayne will tell you I am more anal, so will Bart. But I don't really pull fish. If it's a fish I need, it stays in the net till I get ready to measure it, and it goes in as little time out of the water as possible, especially on big money tournaments. And our live wells are prepped. We either have G-Juice in there or Rejuvenate. We've got ice and cooling the water down and keeping the fish as less stressed as possible. And really, more than anything else, when you put them at the live well at that point, they get back alive quicker. You don't have somebody back there dealing with the fish when they could be fishing, catching another one.
Exactly.
So as little time as you can have somebody back there with the live well tending the fish, I mean, it should equal more fish through the day.
Yeah. On the kayak side, we string them. Some of us do, right?
Yeah.
Some people have live wells. They'll have an ice chest in the back of the kayak. But what we do is have a culling stringer. We'll string the fish, drag them around. I mean, if you could tell if the redfish is almost he's bellying up,
everybody knows.
Then I guess you could haul butt to the truck where our live wells are at and
try to get it going.
Yeah, put them in there for a little bit, But for the most part, it's for the stringer, And it was it wasn't the PRL, it was I don't remember what it was, but it was the one in Freeport. We stuck one on the tongue, a redfish, and it ended up dying, costing us pretty good at the Saltwater Angler Redfish Series, or maybe it was something like that. What's going on, Wes? Wes McKinney's here. Noe Artucci. Gonna stop by and pick up some spoons for tomorrow's
Wes,
trip.
go take care of your child. Get off Facebook.
Come on up here, Noe, and say hi to us, man. Let's keep going. Color scent, gear breakdown. Let's do, we've reached the segment I like to call Koozie Talk. And in this Koozie Talk is brought to you by none other than Lorelei Brewery. Man, these glasses are pretty filled. Somebody mentioned that the glass were filled up. But, man, we're just having such a good time. I mean, if you're having a good time talking, why drink, right?
Yeah.
But Lorelei Brewery, on this Koozie Talk, I want to talk tactics. We talked a little bit about the spoon being the crab imitations and stuff. When you're out there on the boat, right? And of course, there's two sides of the fishing spectrum here. We have the kayak side over here on the right. It might be on y'all's left, I think. But we got the boats over here on my left. Right, so I think it's a total different ball game. But in yours, let's talk tactics. When you mentioned you see the redfish.
Not all the time,
Right,
but
not all
there's
the time.
certain situations where you do.
What are you throwing to get that fish to bite?
It probably depends on areas more than anything else. You know, Laguna, especially with the amount of pressure it gets now, sight fishing gets tough, especially in a bigger boat. It's still really doable, especially on high water. But I would say down south, you know, we're talking down south, anything, let's just say south of Baffin, I don't think it really matters as much.
Really?
You know, sometimes you can throw smaller baits, little paddle tails, little yums, bass assassins, you know, little gulps, you know, stuff like that works. I don't think there's difficult to catch down there. They get more and more difficult up here to catch every year. But typically up here, for the most part, when there's been a bunch of pressure around, if you're not seeing it at 3/4 of the cast, you're normally not catching it, you know, on the drifting ways, unless you have higher water or they're just, you know, schooling wise, is different, right? But we're talking about individual single fish on a flat by itself that's got run over by every V-hole and every other jet ski and other boat, you know, 30 days in a row, you know. It gets a little more difficult sight fishing. That's more where your kayak or pull and skip, something with a little bit less pressure in the water and those fish don't know you're there soon, you'll notice your catch rate goes up on it.
So these tournaments, you're not allowed to get off the boat, right?
No.
You have to stay on the
At
boat?
the most, sometimes they'll let you get off the marina to get gas or whatever,
Oh, okay.
stuff like that. But as far as jumping, the majority of the stuff we do now, it doesn't involve waiting as far as redfish tournament wise goes.
Right. Reels? What's your preference on reels?
I throw all Revo rockets. That's all I throw.
Abu Garcia?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think I throw actually my trout reel and my finesse reel that I throw is Abu Garcia Zata. Actually, Bart's the one that got me throwing it because he threw it for a year and didn't destroy it, so I figured it was a good reel.
The when you're stringing up these lures, you mentioned using braid.
Yes.
Do you have fluorocarbon on the end?
We'll throw
Or
a
is it just straight
fluorocarbon
braid?
leader on our spinner rod sometimes, like our 7.5 Florida rigs, so to speak. You know, lighter pound braid, and I'll throw it sometimes depending on the way the fish act. You know, we go through periods of where we don't throw, we use a straight braid, and then we sit on there with 8-foot leader on. You know, earlier this spring in our events, we were throwing a leader the entire time. It made
really?
a big difference, catch rate compared to other people. But that's a personal preference. I know people that always throw a leader. Typically, I mean, I think Bardo will attest to this. I very rarely have a leader on. And
really?
when I start putting the leader on, we know I'm definitely Florida fishing them. You know, I don't want them nowhere there. But you try to have the thing about a leader. That's something else to break. And that's another knot to break, both on your whether you're tying uni or whatever your FG knot is. You're tying, you know, braid to fluoro. I mean, the mono on or fluoro, whichever one you throw, and then you know on the hook as well. So that's just another spot to have an issue.
Right.
So typically with redfish, especially a 2-fish kind of tournament, you really want as little things to go wrong as they can, because they will go wrong quick.
What are you the knot you're tying to your hook?
I still tie a uni. I've tied
Uni?
everything else, and yeah, I know a uni's not the best. A uni to uni's not the best, but for me it is. I don't have issues with the knot failing. I still got to deal with.
But that's your braid to fluoro,
No,
right?
yes, my braid to fluoro, and I'll tie a loop knot on
Okay.
fluoro, but if it's straight braid, it's just a uni.
Oh, okay.
Just a regular old uni.
Oh, wow.
That's all I throw. I retie it. Typically try to every 3 or 4 fish, somewhere in that range, because it'll.
Oh, really?
It'll heat up on the hook, and you'll break the loop in
Right.
the hook itself. But I'm kind of trained myself to retie it pretty much, so it's a non-issue.
The rods?
I throw everything. I throw is Waterloo 7-foot, heavy cranker or Power Max. That's pretty much all I throw. Now, whether I throw a split grip or a solid cork grip, strictly depends on what I'm doing. If I'm sight fishing, it's just a solid, regular, old school cork grip all the way down. If I'm blind casting a bunch, it's a split grip. You know,
Why? Is there anything
that's
behind
just
that?
what I'm used to
preference?
throwing my whole life. You know,
Really?
The split grip is more for blind casting because you're going to be casting all day long. So just fatigue and everything else, it's just a little easier to cast and a little bit more freedom.
On the rod.
Yes, I'm getting older, so your elbows and everything starts hurting more. So you start lightening it up on a lot of things now.
Right.
You know.
You mentioned Waterloo. Samuel can't hear us. Can you hear me, Samuel? Somebody give us a thumbs up if y'all could hear us. We mentioned Waterloo rods. For those of y'all who are tuning in, we got something special coming up. Can't beat a power mag. So they could hear us now. Neil Flanagan.
Hey Neil, how you doing, brother?
Wes McKinney gives us a brown thumbs up, so we're ready. Maybe we're a little too far behind. Behind the mic. Those of y'all are tuning in, we mentioned Waterloo rods. We got something very special coming up on Sunday. I'm going to mention it again at the end of the show. On Sunday, for those of y'all that are tuning in and got to go halfway through the show or something, right? And correct me if I'm wrong. On Sunday, we're going to do a giveaway. We've never done this before. This is going to be a kids giveaway, right? So the kids that are anglers, for those of y'all that got kids or those of y'all that have cousins.
Not even anglers, just
anybody.
Just kids. That
Any kid that has a
anything
fishing
related to do
picture.
with water and with
Right.
what we're doing. You know what I mean?
Any kid that has anything to do with fishing,
Whether it's a
water,
beach, whether it's at the bridge, whether it's in Corpus Bay, whether
At the
it's in
beach.
Aransas, wherever.
just playing in the
Something to
sand
get
at the beach.
kids more involved in fishing.
Okay,
you know?
so how are they gonna win?
Well, that's up to you. I mean, we can pick the winner. So, in other words, the best kids picture is whether it's with a fish, without a fish, on a boat, by the water, something water related. You want to pick one, or
Let's
you want to
do
let
this.
them pick?
When you all submit y'all's pictures this Sunday, we're gonna go with the picture that has the most likes.
That sounds like a great idea.
Right. So you're going to want all y'all's family involved, right? So send them to the group. One stipulation that I'm going to have is you have to be a Spooled Life Live member. Not necessarily the kids. Some of the kids don't have Facebook, right?
Yeah.
But the person that is submitting the photo must be a Spooled Life Live member. It's simple. Hit the button to be a member. You know, it's that easy. The winner is going to get a custom Waterloo rod of their color choice.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think Jimmy and I have talked about this before. Jimmy Burns of Waterloo, but regardless, I was supposed to have done this a while back, and I never did. But yeah, we want to try to start giving back to the kids and try to get kids more involved in fishing. You know, and especially the ones, you know, all of them, but especially the ones that aren't involved now.
Right.
You know, get the things that made us start fishing and the people in our lives that got us there. So, you know, I really think it's. And by the way, Bart, no, you can't send a picture in a fisher with the freaking 9-pound redfish on. No, not working. Fisher can't send pictures, but yeah, something to start giving back. I think, you know, the more, like, the older we get, the more we realize how selfish we've all been, you know, with what we've gotten in the sport and what we've done. And I think Dwayne agrees with me that we really want to start giving back a lot more than what we have.
Right.
So we're going to try to give back on what we have going on and then try to get the kids more involved in this sport.
Cool, man. That's exciting. I'm sure y'all are excited. I'll mention it again. I'm sure it was all over the place right now, but I'll mention it again at the end of the show about this Waterloo rod giveaway for kids, right? Samuel, can you hear us good? We all got thumbs up. We got about 16 thumbs up. So let's keep on going, man. The loot giveaway, somebody mentioned it earlier, will be given today. There will be another giveaway on the show. And then we'll have the Waterloo giveaway. And then I think I'm going to be doing something for the Christmas. I'm not sure if we'll have a show at the end of, for Thanksgiving, at the end of November. Thanksgiving's kind of getting in the way. You know, it's family time. You know, sometimes you got to draw the line to spend time with family.
It's also a good day to go fishing. Nobody's on the water.
Right,
Just saying.
exactly.
Just saying.
So, in your opinion, that was our Koozie Talk, sponsored by Lorelei Brewery. In your opinion, how bad was the 2021 freeze?
I guess it would be relative to who you talk to. You know, I had a good friend of mine that was down here guiding. He's actually from Galveston. His name's Jamie Pinner. He literally was like, you know, hey, what I was fishing on, they're all dead. You know, they were all stayed shallow. And then, you know, I think 4 or 5 days later, he called me and told me, hey, dude, all the trout from, you know, Bird Island South did not do well. I think the redfish was the one thing that didn't get hit by it as bad. I know that what I saw personally with my eyes, I didn't think we had oversized redfish left in our system. And it wasn't that long ago that I actually got to see our overs, and there's probably about a quarter of them left of what was a lot more, but that's a positive influence. But that's the future of our red fishery,
Right.
that we rely on those breeders to have more keepers besides what the state does in the CCA. But trout wise, I think it smoked it pretty well. I mean, from what I saw, big trout wise, and I got to see a lot in the lower Laguna Madre. I mean, just driving down the land cut and seeing just the thousands and thousands of black drum laying on the bank. But if you walked up there and looked underneath them, it was all baby trout.
Really?
There was trout. Everything else was laying up there too. So it wasn't as bad as what I saw as a kid. When I was a kid in the late 80s, I was in Arroyo City, and it was bad. I mean, every trout looked dead. I mean, the banks of the Arroyo were lined up, so it didn't look as devastating, but it was really, really close. The good thing about it, trout will recover. They don't only live in the bay, and the other species have help from us. You mean, state of Texas, CCA, to help them, but I think more than anything else with fishing, it's less killing and more letting go. Kill what you keep and what you need, and let the rest go. If you can, just to try to sustain the fishery. We can't overfish it. If we overfish it, I hate to say it, but in some ways we're going to turn into Florida, and a lot of their limits and a lot of the things that they have to do over there to have fish in their fishery. So it's all of our job to manage our fishery.
Right.
Everybody's.
I read a post the other day that if we keep it up like this, they would eventually ban fishing.
Well, I know that the only thing that I personally have seen in my life, I was in Alaska, and they would literally ban fishing on the Kenai. They actually have a little bit more better methods of knowing how many fish are going underneath the bridge on a certain day, but they literally close fishing down on the river on a section of river for 10 to 12 days.
Really?
So I mean, it's definitely doable. There's a lot of programs out there as far as managing wildlife and fish that make that doable. I mean, if we can't, the bad thing about fishing is when it's so good that it's that good that you can go do it every day, it's a great thing,
Right.
But the other side of it is too, there's not a never-ending supply of it. I didn't know that. I killed every fish that ever touched my deck for a majority of my life. But I think as you get older, you start to understand more, and all the people that you were getting in arguments with about don't tell me I can't keep my trout. Don't tell me I can't keep my reds. I can do whatever I want to. State of Texas says I can do it. That's true, and you absolutely have every right, and nobody should frown upon you for doing it. But on the same sense, when you don't need to kill them and you don't need them, let them go. It's more fish in the fishery for everybody else as well. So it's a hot topic that we probably don't want to get into because everybody's going to have a different view on it. But I will tell you this, the more you fish and the older you get, the more you're going to start leaning in that direction.
I forgot one question. When we talked about tournaments and fishing off the Mayak from a Haney now, tournament etiquette, when you're going from Texas to Louisiana to Florida, when the Florida guys see these Texas people coming up and man, he's fishing my shoreline, and and has there ever been, or is there any as far as tournament etiquette goes south, I guess you could say, or man, you're down my shoreline, man, I'm fishing this area, you're not going to fish this today?
Etiquette's huge in fishing, right? And I don't think it's the Florida guys, regardless whether it's one of them on a shoreline or somebody from Alabama or North Carolina, South Carolina, or from Ohio for that matter. Everybody has the same opinion. If you and I are going down a shoreline and we have fish in front of us and somebody comes in from the other way, we're going to be like, whoa, stop, time out. Go back wherever you came from. These are our fish. We all have that mentality, right? Etiquette comes with how you were born, where you grew up fishing too. A lot of etiquette on the water that you see problems with is people that grew up in high pressure fisheries. Galveston, for instance, you'll notice that a lot of Galveston, not that they're not good fishermen, not that they don't have etiquette, but they fish deeper water. So them getting close to somebody is a non-issue. It's not even an issue where they fish. There's a certain boundary where when that guy comes to South Texas and rides 100 yards from you, you're throwing the hands up in there and everything else. But I think if you respect everybody on the water, the way you want to be respected, you won't have an issue. You know what I mean? But I think the more and more crowded the water gets, the more and more etiquette has become a huge issue. It's become a huge issue in Louisiana. It's kind of piping down. I know Florida has a huge issue with it, and we do too. But I don't know what the solution is with that because you have so many different levels of boaters on the water,
Right.
And everything else. It's so hard to try to say, hey, this is the direction it needs to go, so that nobody's running down a shoreline with people fishing it, that nobody's running over somebody's fish, or or upsetting their day. And that's the way I typically treat it. Is if I run up on a guy that's drifting, I typically go the other way. Especially if he's by himself, I don't want to be near him. He's out there by himself, leave him alone. But you can't really teach people etiquette. The main thing for me is I treat that person in the other boat like it's myself.
Right.
If I was in their shoes, and that's how I try to treat it. The problem with that is, come Friday and Saturdays, here especially, there's too many boats on the water.
Right.
Somebody's going to get run over. You have no choice. If you go fish Peta Island and you want to go check out Nighthawk, well, I mean, even if you run in the channel, you're going to run somebody over. So I think the bottom line at the end of the day is, when etiquette, if you have conversations on the water with people, yes or no, sir, treat everybody with respect, hear everybody out, let's be adults, let's try to learn, and let's move on. But if we treat everybody with respect, no screaming, no yelling, no being a child, which I was as guilty of that when I was younger as anybody else, but it gets better. If you have a problem with somebody on the water, just go have a conversation with them about it. Go have a conversation. You don't have to go Facebook Live them and do all this other stuff and try to put them down. Go have a conversation with the man or woman, and let's move on. I think once those people get those words out of their mouth and get that off their chest of whatever they're feeling inside, I think the situation's over at that point.
Right.
So just treat everybody like they're your brother out there, and you're going to have fights and you're going to yell and scream, but at the end of the day, you can still say hi to each other at the boat ramp.
Right. On the kayak side of stuff, of course, it's a lot cheaper, right, to jump in a kayak instead of a $7,500, $100,000 boat. Is there more boats? Are you seeing more and more boats now, or are the boat guys transitioning to kayaks?
I'm seeing both, I would tell you.
Really?
You notice now, fishing wise, it used to be here that, especially in hot summer days, by 2-3 o'clock, everybody's off the water. Well, since COVID started, nobody leaves, and you've definitely seen the number of kayak anglers increase,
Really?
exponentially, since I've been fishing, and which is a good thing. But I've also seen it increase in Louisiana. It becomes a little bit more dangerous over there because you can't see around corners and stuff like that. But here in the lagoon, for the most part, I mean, you can see them. So it's really a non-issue. But I have noticed that the popularity in fishing, especially here, has really exploded about the last 15 years.
Really?
Yeah.
Let's do my nephew Joe Hernandez. Your nephew's in the house. Give him a hug.
Let's
do a giveaway. The first what we're gonna give away is Batlin Barbecue fishing shirt. They were on a couple shows ago. It's a red fishing shirt, has the Batlin Barbecue logo on it, and we're also gonna throw in a Batlin Barbecue cap. First person that tells me what kind of boat Mr. Akins is on right now. What kind of boat is he fishing on? We mentioned it earlier in the show. First person to tell me what kind of boat Mr. Akins is fishing on. Cliff Nagel is the winner.
I don't think that's how you spell it, Cliff.
Nope.
It is. I'm just giving him a hard time.
Close enough, right?
Yeah, it's close enough.
Cliff Nagel, you are the winner, man.
Good job.
Slide into my DMs for your address. I might still have it. I know you won a couple of weeks ago or a month ago or something. But congratulations, man. And hey, thank you all, everybody else, for tuning in too. Man, we got a whole bunch of comments coming up. So let's keep going. We got a couple more exciting giveaways, so y'all stay tuned, man. We've been going on for 43 minutes. It feels like we just started. Like,
are we done now? Are we done now?
No, right. Shout out to my sponsors, to the show sponsors. We're here at beautiful Corpus Christi, Texas, in the Roy's Bait and Tackle studio. Real Sportswear is in the house here at Roy's Bait and Tackle. So if you want to get your Real Sportswear apparel, we got it all. We got the new shirts in. We got the shorts. We got the fishing shirts. We got the button-ups. We got all of them here in stock. Cruise in and check them out. And Lorelei Brewery for keeping us well refreshed here in the Roy's Bait and Tackle studio. And yeah, I saw a comment from Mr. Redfish Woodworks for supplying us with this beautiful stand.
Pretty nice. I can
Right?
do that
It's
kind of work. I
beautiful,
can
man.
promise you.
Yeah, he did a super good job. It's the stand's debut today. What is one of your best catches while on the water?
I don't know. That's kind of.
All of them?
No, I mean, I don't think so. I mean, there's so many situations. I mean, like Bart, me and Brett, his brother, were sitting on Cathead one night at like 4:30 in the afternoon. It was 43 degrees. His best big trout bite. One of the best big trout bites I've ever been on. But I don't know. I don't think I could nail that down into one. I would think majority of my memorable fish catches had to do with somebody else with me. We're friends, and we've all been together for so long now, all of us, and it would probably be one of those. But I don't know if I can single out one moment. I know I singled out Brett, but that's just one of those situations. There was so many. There was so many when I was guiding, and there's so many still now with tournament fishing. But I can't, off the top of my head, I can't tell you one was better than the other.
Most of the Bobby Velasquez mentions
What's up,
when
Bobby?
did you win your first tournament, but before that, most of the kayak anglers that are on the show right now know you from the PRL. You and your tournament partner, what's his name?
Dwayne Este.
Dwayne, are the PRL 2021 PRL champs, right?
Yes.
Give us a little story behind that.
Well, originally that tournament was supposed to be held in Houma, Louisiana on the same dates. Well, of course, they got hit with Ida and just
Right.
destroyed pretty much from Delacroix. Delacroix got a bunch of water damage, a lot of water damage through the the west side of the river, Lafitte. Port Sulphur wasn't as bad, all the way through Grand Isle, Fouchon, Golden Meadows, all Raceland, all those friends I have in that area, all the way to Houma, just smoked it. So they decided to reschedule the tournament for Aransas Pass, and we wound up having the event here. It was a 4-day event, wound up being a 5-day event. We got canceled one day for weather.
Okay.
And we, like any other tournament, we put 2 weeks in on it. And I'm not going to say the game plan worked out, but the ideal of how we were going to fish it worked out, which was fish every day different and do what we would do that day if we were just going regular fishing. And we got lucky enough on the final day to get bit right and catch the right ones to win, because there's a lot of competition. Bart should have been there on the final day, but we'll talk about that later. But it was an enjoyable event. Some guys from Florida traveled. A lot of the guys from Louisiana were tied up. Some of the guys from Louisiana traveled, but it was a pretty big giveaway for our sport and what we do. That's the second boat I've won this year, but it's enjoyable. Jimmy and Johnny Mayak gave the boats away, and the Mayak family, and we appreciate them. Mercury, Coastline, for that tournament, and Ron Henney with the Saltwater Angler put it all together and gave a really big prize for a championship. And not that we don't have that now, because we do. We just got through with the Redfish World Series in Chalmette, where it was $50,000 for first, it was $30,000 for second. We still have some big money tournaments going on, but Ron and his staff on that particular series did a really good job on giving everybody a championship where you're fishing for real money at the end of the day, and a 4-day format where you have to work your butt off for 4 days and get it done.
Right.
So I'm not saying it was my most accomplished win, but it probably was on the aspect of game planning and what we were going to do and how we were going to lay low and how everything came together on it.
In your experience on tournament fishing, these big money tournaments that are part of the boats, how would you go by if you were to throw a kayak tournament? How would you go by bringing those monies into the kayak side? Because we fish tournaments and they're nowhere near the boat.
That's a challenging aspect of on the kayak side, because if you're allowing people to launch somewhere else other than the venue you're leaving from, it leaves question marks on a lot of things.
Right.
No doubt, no difference in trailering tournaments. Same exact aspect. It throws a question mark out there. Not that it's deserving whatsoever, because it's not. But I don't know the answer to that. But it's something, if I thought on, I probably could find an answer. I don't know if it'd be the right one or the wrong one. But I would say more than anything else, it's all the anglers together in one entity together can push forward and get a better payout.
I got you.
And it goes with our sport as well, which is the same thing as your sport. It don't matter whether we're in a boat or a kayak. It's the same. We're chasing the same fish, right?
Right.
Everybody together in one entity, everybody together under one umbrella, pushing forward is stronger than people under little bitty umbrellas hiding behind the building over here.
Right.
Just everybody has to come together with a group, whether they like each other or don't like each other. They got to respect the sport and respect the other competitors and figure out a way to get it better.
That's cool. I'm excited to see the kayak. It's growing at a super rapid rate. The payouts are getting a little higher. The PRL was one of them that brought in a little bit more money for the kayak side of stuff. When did you win your first tournament? Do you remember that far?
I was probably 8 or 9 years old. It was probably the Royal City Fishing Tournament, somewhere around there when I was a kid. Yeah, they did a total weight deal back then. I might have been 8. It was a total weight deal. You literally weigh in every fish you want to weigh in, hardhead, skipjack, whatever.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I still remember. Actually won it 3 years in a row.
Wow.
I remember, but I was little back then.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it was a long time ago.
I hope that answered your question, Bobby. Rob Bozen, I think we answered that one as well. Let's do a final giveaway on the loot. This is the loot giveaway. I hope all of y'all entered the loot giveaway. There was a post posted on Spooled Life Live, of course. Super simple rules to enter. If you didn't get to enter, there's going to be a couple more, right? But for the loot giveaway that was done, all of y'all's names are in here. Everybody's names. We had a pretty good turnout on this giveaway. So all of y'all's names is in here. Somebody's gonna win the loot giveaway. Brought to you by Roy's Bait and Tackle. Got a whole bunch of stuff in there, good stuff. I couldn't bring it; it was too heavy. I left it on the trailer in the back of the truck. But I did bring in everybody's names. So out of the 22 people here, I hope all of y'all entered this loot tournament. One person's going to win, and my man, Mr. Akin, is going to pick one person.
Oh, I guess that means I better not look. Whoa, that's 2.
All right, here we go. Well, you're going to have to pick another one.
What? No, wait, that's everybody. See, that's
Everybody
like
wins.
Now I have to pick another one. What kind of game
Right.
is this? You got this thing rigged or
Who
what?
the hell wrote these names on there?
Golly, can I pencil in a name?
Right? Here we go. Andrew and Cynthia Galvan. Andrew and Cynthia Galvan, you are the winner of the loot. We just lost signal for a little bit. I hope we're back on. I think we are. I'm seeing us still live on Facebook. But Andrew and Cynthia Galvan, you're the winner of the loot. Let me write this down real quick because I will forget. All right, man. Congratulations again. I will get with you. Y'all will get with me. You DM me your address and stuff, and we'll get it shipped out. Let's give a shout out to your sponsors and your team.
Yeah, I mean, my partner now is Dwayne Eshday. He deserves all the credit for the majority of stuff we do fishing wise because he has to deal with me on a daily basis because I care about one thing and one thing only, and that's catching fish. But
Right.
the rest of it I could care less about. But I have a lot of really good sponsors that I've been with for a long time. Haney Boats, Chris's Marine, do everything I've ever asked for them to do, and I do everything that they ask me to do. It's a great product. They're great people. That they got hit by Harvey really bad over there, but they're still pushing forward. Coastline Marines build my towers this year, and I'm very thankful for Cole and Chad and them up there. Coastline Trailers, Marty Strakus, he builds every one of my trailers, and anytime I need parts, Mike Morrow at Haney goes by there and gets them for me, or Charlie Barton. Waterloo rods, Jimmy Burns. The only rod I throw, that's it, period, the end. And I love him to death, and I wouldn't be without him. If he made me start paying for him tomorrow, I'd start paying for him. Not that he doesn't make me pay for him, but sometimes I don't. Anyways, we won't get into that. But Abby Garcia, Berkeley Gulp, Naughty Hooker jig heads is all I throw jig head wise for redfish. Trout wise, I'm typically throwing Jay's lures. Texas custom lures, custom corkies. I feel like I always leave people out, and I don't mean to. So many people have helped us. LMC Marine, where my motors get shipped to, my Yamahas get shipped to. They do all the rigging on it and everything else, and they've helped me out through the years. All the people with Yamaha, and that help us out. Connor Megan, and Haley over there that we do our ordering through. The guys on the service trailer. There's so many people that help us out. And if I left somebody out, I'm sorry. I don't mean to, but you know how I am. I forget anyways. But I do want to tell everybody something that's really big for our sport, which is the sport of red fishing. This coming week, starting Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday, you've got 10 select teams that are going to be from Bird Island Basin to Port O'Connor pre-fishing for the Bassmasters Redfish Cup. They will pre-fish Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. They have to stay in their boundaries. Some of them are redfish teams, Travis Land, Nicky Savoy, Thomas Barlow, Glenn Van. And then you've got some bass guys. My partner, My partner Dwayne Estates fishing with Patrick Walters. You got Chris Zaldane fishing with Ryan Rickard. That tournament's going to be held in Port Aransas next Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I believe. It may be Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, but I'm sure it's Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. It's going to be televised on Saturday. It's a cool event. If you get time, Bassmasters has got their Facebook page. Look it up. Look for Bassmasters Redfish Cup. 10 teams, televised, shootout, 2 fish for boat. It's going to be a very interesting event, and it's really good for our area because we've got the Bassmasters here doing a redfish tournament. So if you've got nothing to do, go support them, go say hi to them, go introduce yourselves, go meet everybody that's there. We're looking forward to it. I'm excited for all of my friends that are fishing it, all the guys I know from Florida that are fishing it. It's going to be fun times, especially for my sport. It's a big deal.
Right.
You know,
That'd be cool to go check out.
Oh yeah, it'd be awesome. Plus, I mean, the Bassmasters is producing it also. It's going to be quality. I thought somebody told me, I'm not confirmed, but I think Rick Murphy's doing the stuff in studio, I believe, which he does a really good job with this Florida Insider, and it's going to be exciting. They're giving away $50,000 for first place team. No entry fees paid. All these 10 teams were either invitational or qualified. They're fishing for $50,000, and it's game on. You know,
right.
It's 3 days of fishing,
and it's televised.
And it's televised.
Wow,
yes,
that's cool.
It's going to be exciting. Yamaha and Skeeter are presenting the Bassmasters Redfish Cup, which they do a great job supporting a lot of things in fishing, whether it's freshwater or saltwater, and so does everybody else. So it's exciting times, you know, and there's a lot of stuff going on. I know everybody's going hunting, and some people are still fishing, but it's a good time. You get time, look it up. If not, send me a message on Facebook, Kevin Akin on Facebook, and I'll get you all the information you need to know. But if you've got nothing to do this up and coming weekend, not this weekend, the following weekend, check it out. It's going to be really, really big, and it's huge for our area on a national scene.
Right. Let's go over one more time on the Waterloo Rod giveaway. Correct me if I'm wrong. This Sunday, I'm not sure what time yet, but this Sunday, I will put a post on Spoiled Life Live, right? The rules will be on the post, of course. We're looking for is fishing pictures with kids, and not necessarily have to be fishing. Outdoors. Anything kids outdoors. Post your picture, right? Make sure you're a Spoiled Life Live member. The picture that has the most likes per post will win a Waterloo custom rod of their color choice.
Yeah, whatever color they want, we'll get it done. You know, it'll be a rod they can have for a very, very long time, and I'm happy to be a part of it. Jimmy's happy to be a part of it, and the more we can do stuff to get back to the kids in the outdoors and getting everything pushed forward, I think it's a good deal.
Right. So y'all stay tuned for that. It's coming Sunday. The post will go out live Sunday. The rules and all that stuff will be on the post if you missed it. I want to thank my sponsors, the show sponsors, for putting this together, for putting the show together. Without them, this show would be nothing. Roy's Bait and Tackle, Real Sportswear, and Lorelei Brewery. I hope we answered all your questions. I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Do you have anything else?
I'm sure I got a million things else, but everybody that knows me knows I talk too much anyways. But right now, I don't have a lot. Oh, I do remember one sponsor I forgot. See all this Sims stuff behind us at Roy's that I spent a lot of money over the years? I am sponsored by Sims as well. So
there you go.
It's a great product. Roy's Bait and Tackle, I want to give them a shout out for having you here and all of us in the fish community that live in this area have spent a bunch of money in this store, and we love this place. Not that we don't like big box stores too, but it's nice to be able to walk into an establishment like Roy's and get what we need for our area, regardless whether it's kayaking, whether it's wade fishing, whether it's bait wise, whether it's offshore. This is one place that has everything we need for our area in Corpus, and we appreciate them having all this stuff available for us anglers here.
One-stop shop.
Absolutely.
And if we don't got it, we'll find a way to get it into the shop. Thank y'all again for tuning in. Give Mr. Akin, how can they get in contact with you? Facebook?
Yeah, you can contact me on
Instagram?
Instagram, Facebook.
TikTok?
Yeah, well.
Not yet?
No, that TikTok story is going to, you'll know not that long from now, but yeah, absolutely.
We'll put a post on it or something.
Yeah,
that
we don't want to
Mr. Akin finally got a TikTok. Thank y'all for tuning in. Wait for the next flyer. I'm not sure yet if I'm going to do a Thanksgiving weekend area show. Tune in for that. If I'm not going to do a show, I'm going to do a hell of a giveaway. So y'all stay tuned for that. Thank y'all for tuning in, and we will see y'all the next time.